Welcome to an episode of Prepper Talk Radio with your hosts, Scott, Shane, and Paris. We are excited to be in the house with you guys today and sharing with you some things that are happening. We want to talk about mobile preps and what's going on. This was actually inspired by, or, we thought about this because what we've been hearing about what's going on with the people in Donner Pass. Now, it's a great opportunity to learn from the mistakes of others. So we're going to take a few minutes to do that. But before we do, just want to remind everybody about one of our sponsors, one of our great affiliates, actually not a sponsor, affiliate, Devos Outdoor. They have, I think, one of the greatest lighting systems for camping, and it's better than a lantern. Also, if power goes out and you need to have lighting for your whole room, they have this cool light. It's called the Ranger light, telescopes all the way to the top, and it illuminates the whole room. You can telescope that thing all the way to the ceiling, and it's a great thing. If you use code PT, this is a little different code, so be careful. It's PTR 3.0, PTR 3.0, and you got 10% off of their Ranger lights. Sometimes they have deals where you can get 2 for 1, and what's really cool is they have a solar panel that goes with it, so that it's actually renewable, sustainable energy. Also, please, with what's going on in the economy, we're in election year. We got some roller coasters. I'm literally watching my stocks earlier today, roller coasting up and down over the last several days. And I'm thinking to myself, I need to gold and silver does not roller coaster like this. And I want to get you guys back into learning more about ITM trading. So go to our good friends over at ITM Trading. You go to learn.itmtrading.com/Prepper Talk. There's a 800 number, a toll-free number that you can call to have them go through all the things that are available there. There's a ton of options for you to add gold and silver, precious metals to your portfolio. So without further ado, let's jump into our mobile preps. We're going to actually talk about a couple of videos that were on social media. I'm sure you've seen them about the Donner Pass issue and what's going on there, and the reality of what Mother Nature can do, and the reality of you just never know what's going to happen, and that's why you have to be prepared. And so I think before we jump into some of these videos, you guys want to have share any thoughts?
Well, it's just funny because I was just going to say 1846-ish is when the Donner Reed party got stuck in Donner Pass. And for those of you who don't know the story, 32 people in this family, it was basically 2 families, the Donners and the Reeds, 32 people. They got stuck in the pass, and it was them and their employees. And they were the tail end of a wagon cart of pioneers going west. And this is in the Sierra Nevadas. There's a lot of snow that happens in that area. And so they got stuck up there. And if I remember right, almost everybody died, if not everybody.
Yeah,
but it was
a horrible story.
The
famousness of it, or the infamy of it, is that they had to eat each other to stay alive, or eat the dead bodies to stay alive, which is incredibly. Just imagine that, the mental toughness you have to know that in order for you to survive, you've got to eat your buddy. Oh geez, I can't even think about that.
Yeah, there are other stories that are like that. And let's avoid those stories, right? That's why we're talking about this today, so we don't have to avoid eating each other, right?
So then in 2024, just a few days ago, we had the new round with 100 inches of snow in less than 3 days. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, no one's got hand carts, but oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You're not just stuck, you're buried at that point. So that's what's really piquing our topic for today. And there's a lot of things that people did wrong going into this weekend, or going into last weekend. So let's talk about that.
No excuses if you ask me, but yeah.
Do you want to share that video, a couple of these videos here?
Let's start out with that.
Now, if you're listening on the podcast, sorry, but you're going to want to jump over to our YouTube channel and take a look at this video, because it's pretty telling. In fact, this one is, what am I going to do? Okay, this one is actually a video of a group of people. And
turn the
volume down. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's just random anyways. But you can see those cars are buried. That car right there is totally buried. That guy's poking his head out of the window, and that's all you can see. You can't even see the car. You can only see this poor guy who got completely buried, and there's a whole row of cars behind him And I wonder if that there was like some kind of avalanche, even it looks like right there, that kind of buried that set of cars that's in right there. That is scary.
Well, obviously, what's happened is someone that was in a rear-wheel drive sports car, and the snow started piling up. They couldn't move forward, stop the traffic behind them, and of course, I'm just guessing. Right, this is just my.
I was like, "You got an inside scoop?"
Yeah, no, this is what I'm picturing. Right, this is how it happened, or at least one of the reasons that this happened. And then they got stuck. Once you stop, you can't get moving on an uphill road like this when it's packed, especially if you're not four-wheel drive or have chains. And then it just snowed and they got buried. And then there's no help. You just have to wait for rescue. That's it.
Yeah, just look at that right there. That is crazy.
Or if you're prepared to hoof it out, which I wouldn't do that personally.
Well, the other thing too is that once you're in there, like you can't even dig yourself out. You can't even. It's just you got to wait. Yeah. What do you do?
Well, everybody's in front of you is stuck as well. So you're not going anywhere until the people in front of you are moved out of the way. Right? Really bad situation. I found myself in a similar, at least the beginning of this situation. I went out to Denver, drove out there last year, and going over those high canyon passes. Started to snow, no big deal, but the vehicles in front of me, some of these semis, did not have chains. Right, they're required to have chains in the winter to pull over and chain up, and some of these trucks did not have chains, and we were forced to drive around them. So I can see how it could easily. That could easily cause this problem. Either semis not chained up, or front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive vehicles just with bad tires, or not having snow tires, not being properly equipped, stopped traffic, and everybody else got stuck. So
well, speaking of
without the ability to get around.
Here's another video.
Yeah, here's the semis.
This one is just semis that are all totally buried.
A truck with a trailer.
Yeah, tractor trailers, they're completely buried. That guy's standing right next to it, and I think the snow is up to his head. I mean, this is crazy. This is just
you're not going anywhere.
Miles and miles of trucks just stuck in the snow with the snowbank as high as their window, as high as their door.
Now the question is,
they got tractors out there. Thankfully, they got a couple of shots. We see here a tractor trying to move it out of the way. But wow,
it's crazy. So how did this happen? Right? Even I saw the weather announcement saying, "Do not travel."
Yep.
That they're expecting a huge storm. Do not plan on traveling these 3 days at all. Just hunker down, stay home. Do not travel. So what happened? When did these people get stuck? I mean, look at all these semis. Of course, it's business. You gotta truck on through because they're depending on you to do your job to get the load there, right? And and you got to get paid, and you want to get home. And there's maybe some desperate people say, "No, I'm going to push through. I want to get home. I want to, And it just ended up. Look at this video. Yeah, this is crazy. They've got road graders out clearing snow to try and get these trucks going.
So with a blizzard, depending on the severity of the blizzard, there's the emergency network will notify you. But most people aren't listening to the radio. They're listening to their podcast. They're listening to their pre-recorded devices on their phones, or they've got things downloaded. So they're not listening to what's going on in the weather when they get in their car. And a lot of people I talk to aren't really looking at their weather when they're planning trips.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the first two things you could help avoid those situations is look at the weather. Like we're always looking at the weather when we take trips. When we go on long road trips anywhere, we're always looking at the weather. Okay, what are we going to experience? Do we need to leave earlier? Do we need to leave later? Or do we need to not go at all?
Yeah.
And a few years ago on our way back from California for a family trip, we got stuck. Thankfully, there was monsoon's weather that hit, and we got stuck in Vegas because we saw the weather hitting in Utah, southern Utah. We stopped, waited it out, and then came through. But there was tragically a few families that had died near St. George because the storm hit so fast and so hard, it just took them off the road. And a couple of young families were really, really affected by this.
Yeah. So what made them make that decision to, hey, let's go, let's try and make this through the storm, whereas you set it out, these others did not. What do you think their reasoning might have been?
Insanity. Honestly, as a young guy, I probably would have made stupid mistakes like this, but I don't think I could ever could have gone to that level. But I can't say for sure, because part of the problem was it hit so fast. It was more inches than expected in such a short amount of time that's part of the problem. And the best way to handle that is to stop and get out, go back out. And if you go too far, you're stuck. It's just like, as soon as you get on the freeway and you hit that merge lane, you got to keep going
to the next exit at least, right? And who knows where that next exit is.
And honestly, stop in a little town and just stay there. Pull over underneath.
I think another part of it is that we're so accustomed to being in a shelter now. Like 100 years ago, there was more exposure to the elements. People respected the elements more. They knew when a storm was coming.
True.
We're going to give it a lot more respect because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how bad it's going to be. We don't know how many inches. We don't know how much the torrential downstorm is going to. We look outside of our windows, sipping our hot cocoa, while it's a blizzard outside. Where 100 years ago they didn't have that luxury that we have, and so I don't think we respect the weather. And so when we hear that it's going to be bad, another part of it, I mean, with all due respect, a lot of these weathermen are like, "Oh, it's going to be horrible," and you're like, "Yeah, that was it." It's like, so there's a little bit of that too.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like, well, is it really going to be as bad as they say? And then when it is, and then worse, you're like, "Oh crap, I should have paid better attention." So
that's one thing that was on
cheap crying wolf, and then there's also the we just take it for granted.
No, totally agree. I think we see a lot of weather warnings, which I find sometimes like, seriously, they're putting out a warning for we're going to get 1 inch in the morning, I'm like, they're issuing a warning for that. So it's exactly like you're saying, they're crying wolf. And so their warnings get dismissed, right? It's like, they've lost their relevance. And that's what these news channels, I think they're trying to do is, you have to watch us because we're going to warn you about what's coming. And then nothing happens, like you say, or it's just it's just ridiculous warnings, and there's just way too many of them. So I think absolutely that could be the case. It's like, this last time they gave a warning and then nothing happened, or it was minor, so we're just going to keep pushing on. So absolutely, I think that's a big part of it.
Totally. I mean, one thing to learn, especially as you look at these videos, one thing to learn is, do you have a shovel to shovel your way out of these places? Number one. And number two, you better have food and you better have a blanket, because you're going to get cold real quick if you can't move and you're stuck there for overnight. So there's water. I mean, shoot, you got to have, if you can't keep your car running because it's buried in snow, and that's going to ruin potentially damage your engine. You can't keep the car running, so you can't keep the heater going. And even if you did, you might run out of gas. You know what I mean? Like, there's all these, like, all the different things that could happen. And so that's where in my truck, I have a Honda Pilot, and it's 4-wheel drive, thankfully. And I mean, it's not like the best 4-wheel drive, it's like
all-wheel drive.
Yeah, it's all-wheel drive. It's not like your car, Shane, or yours, Scott. But I have a blanket in there. I have extra water in there. I have snow chains, definitely snow chains all winter long in the back. I try to do my best to have some things so that if anything happens, I have a first aid kit. I have, food that, bars, like the energy bars. I mean, they're better than nothing. And it's just, these are great reminders of what we should do and ought to be doing in our car. Like you say all the time, Scott, like, you have plenty of room in your trunk. There's no reason why you shouldn't have a good bag or a good something in storage in your trunk with all the materials you need.
Yeah, empty trunks make no sense to me at all.
Yeah. The other problem is some cars don't have access to the trunk from inside. So you need to make sure you're prepared for that. Like, if you've got an older, like, big old Crown Vic or older Lincolns and Buicks, a lot of those, the seats don't fold down. You can't get access to the trunk. So you got to make sure you've got stuff accessible in every portion of the car that you're in. But yeah, Shane and I talk about this all the time about, like, go heavy, have more stuff. Like, okay, you got some blankets. Okay, but do you have survival blankets on top of that? Like, for me, I pulled one of my car kits out. And I took out some of the stuff, but I've got these Mylar bivy bags. Every every kit we have has one of these, especially in the car, because I can wrap in a warm blanket, but then I can put this around and it's going to reflect the heat back to me. I've used this. Shane saw me sleeping this on the Ready Man Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But like in the car, I can't light a fire, but I've got fire starting kits. I've got lights, headlights. I've got food. But like when it comes to food, a lot of people will carry freeze dried food in their car. And in a blizzard situation like this, how are you going to prepare that?
Mm-hmm.
Add water and wait 10 hours?
Yeah.
Like the dehydrated food or the food bars, the granola bars, any kind of eat now type of bar, and you rotate those every quarter, like you're going to be fine. The only time you really have to worry is when it gets too hot. But during the winter, when it gets too cold, it's like food bar can freeze. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I've got snacks galore, especially with small kids. We've got so many snacks whenever we go on a road trip. Or anytime it's more than a half hour, we bring extra food.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. When you're going on a trip, just throw some extra snacks in your vehicle, especially if there's a possibility of getting stuck. And that's another aspect I wanted to talk about is knowing the capability of your vehicle. Like Paris said, I have 4-wheel drive vehicles. All Toyotas, all 4-wheel drives. I honestly don't buy anything that does not have 4-wheel drive. If you drive a rear-wheel drive vehicle, like I mentioned in the beginning, they're absolutely terrible in the snow. Front-wheel drive is better, but it still has its limitations, and you still have to be able to know how to drive these vehicles. An experienced driver in the snow can take a rear-wheel drive vehicle and outdrive some people that have all-wheel drive vehicles because they know how to do it. They know how not to spin the tires and just some other techniques that way to keep you from slipping, to stay on the road and keep moving forward. And I think that's the first thing is knowing the abilities of your vehicle. And if you're going into a storm saying, I'm just rear-wheel drive, I'm not even going to try this. I mean, that should be pretty common sense. If you got a Ford Mustang, rear-wheel drive, or you're driving a little front-wheel drive minivan, right? Then you might have a little bit better chance of getting up the hills if it's slippery. But if someone in front of you stops, you might just be done. You're not moving forward anymore, right? So
yeah, you can't get around them because you don't know where the road starts and ends.
Exactly. And that's another thing about these types of trips is, yes, you can prepare for yourself, but how can you prepare for all the other idiots on the road, right? Yeah. And so I think the best choice.
Those semis were practically sardines. Like you can't get around those semis with them packed in like that, And so you're right, Shane. You gotta. It may not even be your fault. You might have all the skill set. You might have a great vehicle, but then you're like, okay, well, the conditions.
The person in front of you doesn't know how to drive their vehicle. But also these semis, in these canyons, they are turnout places where they are required to put on their chains before they go up the canyon. So I wonder what the situation was. If it obviously didn't come on quick. This was not a surprise to anybody. And so I wonder, and typically there's going to be law enforcement in the canyons enforcing these semis putting chains on before they head up the canyon. So I wonder why so many semis, because if they're chained up, man, they can plow some serious snow when they're chained up. I've seen them go through 2 foot of snow like it's not even there. So it is a big question why so many got stranded on that pass. I think it was like 1,000 vehicles or something.
There was another video, I couldn't find it real fast, but it was a police officer, and the snow he was plowing through the snow up to just a couple inches below the hood. So it was more than, that's probably 3 feet, right? Sounds like, or 4.
It could be upwards of 3.
And who knows how fast it came, but because you're right, it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem like, wait a minute. It seems like they look like they got surprised, but then we have so many warnings and so many other things. It's like, you should have, it seems like they should have been prepared, but they weren't.
There's 2 parts to it. The warning wasn't equal to the severity of what actually happened.
Maybe not.
Right? They said if I remember right, they expected like 20 to 30 inches, which is still a blizzard, which is still bad. And I wouldn't have gone out in it. But I think a lot of people think, oh, if it's only that much, like, okay, we live in Utah, so we're spoiled. Like if you go up to Park City, you can get 20, 30 inches in 24 hours. But the snowplow system that they have is world class, because that's our greatest income for the state is the ski mountains. So they're always clearing those, right?
Yeah.
But even a storm greater than 20 inches is going to slow them down, right? This happened in the 3-day period, 100 inches.
That is pretty fast, actually.
It came on so fast. I think it came on way faster than they expected, which then goes to, okay, if you're out there and you made the mistake to be out there, what do you do? Do you leave your car and go look for help during that kind of storm? And the answer is absolutely not.
Right.
You don't even risk it, because you're going to get buried as a person, and you're going to freeze. You're going to have ice against you, snow against you. That's going to pull your body heat out so fast that you're a goner.
Yeah.
Well, in this situation, there were so many people around. It didn't make sense to leave your vehicle and go anywhere. Now, I have heard of multiple stories where a vehicle, they were all by themselves. They slid off the road in the snow. They got stuck behind a closed gate, and nobody was coming for them. So in that case, yeah, they would have to be prepared to walk a certain distance to self-rescue. But in this,
Well, let me
this wasn't
clarify.
the case here.
While it's still blizzarding, don't leave your car.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you're going to get lost in the blizzard. Yeah.
Have enough stuff in your car that you can stay there for a few days. I mean, you can go weeks without food, right? Make sure you've got the water. Make sure you've got some heat sources. Obviously, you're not lighting a fire in your car unless you're insane and want to kill yourself. But you need to have things that can help keep you warm.
Buddy heater.
There you go, portable heaters. But then again, you got to make sure you got your window cracked to get new oxygen in there to keep you breathing.
Circulation.
Have that circulation. But then you're also like, okay, you got your blankets, you got your water, you got your system in your car to keep you warm and occupied. You're going to run your battery out if you try to run the car. You're going to lose the heater there. You're eventually going to get your car buried so much that it's just going to smother itself anyways, and it may not even start and run. But leaving the car during the blizzard is insane. Once the blizzard's over, then you've got to consider, okay, do I have the clothes and gear to get out of here and go get help? Or can I make a phone call and someone can come rescue me? I think that's one of the big fears I have is my kids growing up and being dumb enough to go off trail on a hike and not have told somebody, and then they get lost and don't stay put, because that's the number one rule when you're hiking. You get lost, stay put.
Yeah.
Right. When you're in a blizzard and you're stuck and it's blizzarding, stay put until the blizzard's over. Then if you can self-rescue, 100% self-rescue. But yeah, it just happens so fast and so heavy that's what's crazy.
What?
Yeah,
I
100
think
inches. What is that? That's like 8 feet.
Yeah. But I think it's all about making the right choices. I think good choices were not made for most of these people, right? And I'm just assuming, right? That's a little bit harsh there to say that, but if someone was planning a trip and to go over this pass, they were listening to the weather, watching the weather. Hey, this looks questionable. I don't know if I should go. Then don't go. If you are at all questionable about your vehicle, that you are not prepared with the right gear, just don't go. Just wait. And I can guarantee anybody who waited are sure glad that they waited and they didn't go. And there were probably lots of people. There were probably a lot of people that say, you know what, I'm going to wait to take this trip. Weather's just not good. I'm going to call and cancel my plans or whatever it is. Because, and not just because, okay, if it were yourself and you had the right vehicle, yeah, maybe you could make it. But you don't know all the conditions of and how good the other drivers are, if they're prepared, which most likely they're not. I mean, that's I think the correct thing to assume is that most other people don't know what they're doing, don't know how to drive in the snow, and are not prepared, and that could cost you dearly.
Totally.
Shane, you're 100% right. Like, the biggest factor on that freeway was the people who weren't ready, or the people who made the bad call. Even if you were like an expert driver and you're like, I can make it, and maybe you could have, but there's so many factors of the people around you that aren't good drivers, that aren't making good choices. That's the number one, I think, problem in that whole scenario.
Yeah. Swallow your pride and make the right choice, right?
Yeah, the best choice is to avoid disaster, to avoid the problem. The next best choice is to be prepared for it and to have the gear necessary. I don't know if this is an exercise that I just thought of this and I'm thinking, I should go sit in my car and just think. And it's better to do it, I think, in the car because you're going to have it'll change your mindset a little bit, help you kind of guide and direct you. But sit in your car and think, okay, if I was stuck in this car for the next 24 hours, what would I need to live, to survive? Okay, water.
Go in your driveway when it's
Food.
snowing and it's cold outside.
Yeah. Maybe if it's cold, definitely want to have some extra clothes, some gloves, a jacket, the bivvy that you talked about, Scott. Just what do you think would be good? Okay, blankets, water, food. Now it's hot. Now think about it when it's hot. Like, what would you need if it was super hot and you needed to be able to have that? Like, what are some things you would have? Maybe a fan or maybe some kind of cooling device or
shade.
Yeah, even a handkerchief that you can put water into and then just put around your neck. I mean, that's enough to oftentimes to lower you several degrees. So that's what I would say is if you're listening to this, just go and imagine what kinds of, imagine your car went off the road and you're at the bottom of a crevasse, somewhere. What are you going to do to survive that? Like maybe you need some rope. Maybe you need to have some, good climbing shoes or hiking shoes, an extra set of shoes in your trunk too. So those are some things I would think of as you ponder what are some ways you can keep yourself and your family safe when there's inclement weather and you're on the move and you're traveling, because we kind of prepare about bugging in or bugging out, but then what about preparedness while we're mobile, while we're moving? En route? There's some definite things to think about too.
So this is our vehicle readiness module. If you're watching YouTube, you can see it. If you want to go download it, it's free. It's part of our preparedness gift to you. We have our kits that we talk about. We also have like the basic readiness module for your vehicle. Everything from trauma kits, tourniquets, scrapes and scratches, first aid stuff, to your blankets, tarps, wool socks, cordage, ropes, and then into radios, tools. Do you need road flares, jumper cables, multi-tools, toolbox?
Yes.
Pry bars, headlamps, flashlights, fire extinguisher, these little handy dandy little radios that can charge your phone, that can also run your SOS, get all the NOAA weather alerts, right? And AM FM radio. What do you have in your car? You've got space. Don't waste it. You can put stuff under the seats. You can put stuff behind in the trunk. There's some people that have these really cool strap kits on the back of the seat that they've got their first aid kits and all kinds of tools stuck into. And so it's just I just grab it off the back of the seat. There's so many places you could put stuff. Get creative and go to preppertalkradio.com/resources and you can download our list. It doesn't take much to avert a crisis.
Yep. I did a video on what I have in my car, at least one of my cars. And so I'm going to put a link. It'll probably be over in the cards on YouTube. So if you were on YouTube watching around the 28-minute mark, you can go and click and watch that video, or just go to our channel and search for that video on what I put. I did a little review of what I have in my car kit, and maybe I should update it after looking at this video. I might go and just make sure that I have it all there and it's really still there. When you share a car with somebody, you might have packed it just right, but then you share it with somebody, and before you know it, wait a minute, where did that whole?
I had to take it out.
I had to take it out because there was no room for when I moved my whatever. No, you put it back. What are you doing? So it's always good to make even every trip that if I'm going to travel, my wife, I know she thinks I'm crazy. But every trip that I'm going to travel longer than what I would feel comfortable walking back to my house, I put my grab and go bag in the back. That's part of I just camping, road trip, anything longer than several hours, a couple hours, I put my kit in the back, my grab and go bag, because I don't know. I'd rather be able to have that to hoof it out, or to at least survive for a couple of hours longer than I would have. That might just be anything I need. Like the rescue team may have needed that 2 hours to find you, and you have the 2 hours because you have the bar, the water bottle, you have that extra clothing, that shelter to keep you safe.
Paris is going to be that guy that the emergency rescue gets there. and he's sitting in his car. He's got his little hand warmers going in his pockets and in his socks, and he's got his little radio out and he's listening, and maybe he's got a book out and he's using his headlamp to read a book in the middle of the night. And they're like, "Hey, sir, we're gonna get you out." And he's like, "Oh, I'm good.
I'm good.
Help everybody else out.
I'm really
good."
good.
I'm like,
Yeah,
"You're good." He goes, "I'm a prepper. Come on, I'm ready for this."
Somebody
Now think of it.
save those people first.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's absolutely the point. It's about mindset. And if you're in a difficult situation, you're prepared. It may not be a difficult situation at all. Of course, and I think, okay, think of it this way: Mother Nature is trying to kill you, right?
Yeah.
So this is a defensive scenario. You have to think defensively, and so when I think that way, I think that, okay, I have my concealed carry, and when I'm carrying, I'm thinking about, okay, what are the chances that something could happen? Very low, right? If you're driving into the blizzard, it's probably much higher, right?
Yeah.
So think defensively and then consider the consequences, right? I don't carry because I'm paranoid. I carry because I understand what the consequences can be to not carry, right? So same thing with a vehicle, same thing driving into adverse weather. Consider the consequences and swallow your pride. If it doesn't turn out so bad, and you're like, man, I could have made it. I wasted all that time, and what's better than the alternative, right? So like I say, you make a choice and then don't look back, right? Make the right choice and don't look back.
Yeah.
Amen. Well, I hope you guys have a chance to, if you're listening, if you have a chance to actively go now. I mean, you've listened, you've heard some ideas. Now actually go do it, please. Go look in your trunks. Go put together a kit, go download the list we have, go find a list somewhere else if you want to. We don't care. Just get one and get prepared and get ready and then share it with your friends. And don't just do it for one car. Do it for every car that you have. If you have more than one, and do it for your kids' cars. Like one of the things that I bought a kit for my stuff, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy 3 or how many cars do I? So I bought 4 of them because I wanted one for my son, one for my daughter, and one for the 2 cars that one for my other son's car and the car that I drive. So I was like, hey, this is the next birthday present, the next gift. Don't even wait. Like, just get them. Hey, you need to have this in your car. Don't you dare drive without it. And so share that with people. You don't know whose life you'll save. You might literally get a phone call. Hey, I'm stuck on the side of the road. Can you come save me? And then you say, remember that kit I gave you? Remember that bag I gave you to put in your trunk?
Yeah.
Did you do it? Yeah. Okay. There's food in there. Thank you so much for Dad. You're not crazy after all. You saved my life. That's the phone call you want to have of any of the phone calls about that, because you know that they've got what they need, at least for long enough to you get there or somebody to get there to help finalize the rescue. So any last minute thoughts, guys? We're coming up on our time frame, actually. I know this isn't as long as an episode as we normally do, but it's packed full of info. Well, thank you guys for listening to Prepper Talk Radio for the ready-minded, where we help you understand how you can be prepared for whatever life throws at you. Hopefully you'll remember that God first, family, and country. And hopefully we'll keep you ready-minded. Go check out our friends. We've had a lot of really good feedback on the Survival Frog, our buddy over at Survival Frog, and the resources that are there, the gear that's there. Go ahead and check out our good buddy at survivalfrog.com. Use code PrepperTalk to get 10% off. And we'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you so much.
See you next week.